2, and we're live, I guess.
This is the Three Grandmas podcast. This week, we'll be doing another scene from the movie.
You want to begin with the scene?
And action.
Boss, hose outside.
Draft beer, please.
This way, please.
Oh, how come you didn't tell us you're back? You shouldn't do that. We were good brothers once, isn't that right, Mark? Oh, if you didn't take care of me, I would never have what I have. I would never have what I have now.
Oh no, you deserve it. I don't have the ability. It's Mark who gave me the chance.
Mark, if you need my help in the future, just say so.
Don't talk bullshit. Let's drink.
You have to take care of our brothers. Cheers.
Cheers! Ting! Mark puts his leg on the table.
This is for my leg.
Pours a drink on his leg.
Happy?
Come see me when you're free. There's a lot we can talk about.
I'm not interested.
You will be. I have to go.
Sung Si Ho, follow me.
Ho stands up, what the fuck look on his face. Kit roughly brings him out into the back alley.
What are you doing?
Back alley.
What are you doing? What did Shing tell you?
Just bullshit.
Don't fool me. Was it business or bullshit?
It was bullshit, really.
Is there something arriving tomorrow?
Don't know.
Loading where and when?
I don't know.
How can you be a big brother and know nothing?
Kit!
Don't call me Kit. Call me Inspector.
I'm not a boss anymore.
Where do you work?
United Taxi Co.
Decent business? You rob people with a taxi? Where do you live?
United Taxi Co.
So someone still accepted you, thief.
Thief? Doesn't he have a name? Don't think you're so great just because you have a gun.
I'll shoot you down, cripple.
Gun at my head. If you have the guts, then shoot me.
Kit, sir, I know I owe you too much. Give me a chance.
Give you a chance? I begged you to give me one. Do you know that because of you, I lost my chance at promotion? Because you're an agent of the underworld? Don't leave Hong Kong. I'll be back to get you.
And scene. Well done, well done.
All right,
Well done. Welcome to the Three Grandmas podcast, everyone. We are here with a guest this week. Our good man, DrYazman.
Yay!
How you doing?
Hello, everybody. Great to see you all. Great to be here.
Yes. Tell me about yourself.
Well, you can find me on Twitch 3 nights a week at least, or 3 mornings a week, if depending on where you are in the world, or it might be at a random point in the continuum of the day, depending on if you are in some eternal twilight plane. I'm a planeswalker who travels the multiverse. I talk about politics. I talk about current events. I play retro games. I guess you could call me a retro variety politics streamer. I'm also a co-owner and co-founder of Cave Dweller Music, cavedwellermusic.net, which is a music website. But we cover a variety of topics, mostly independent and underground music, but also artwork, and we may be branching out a little bit in the future, but we'll see.
Sounds great. Are you, do you talk about Australian politics? Specifically?
I can do that, but I very rarely do. Typically, I'm talking about geopolitics or United States politics.
The more interesting one.
I'm qualified to talk about both, but
Yeah, you're a doctor of law.
Is it because Australia isn't a real
yes,
place?
yeah.
Australia is a myth?
It's a myth.
It's a beautiful myth.
The
We're an
reasons
automated system.
the reasons why are very complicated, but suffice to say, I just personally find it. I'll summarize it by saying I personally am more invested in the US side of things, and I find it, owing to my research topics, which do tend to focus more on the United States. So, the bulk of my research academically focuses around the First Amendment at the moment, so and has for quite a while. So Australian politics is part of it, and I do have research topics there, but I'm just more invested in the US side of things by and large.
Where can we read your research? Is it available? Is it published?
My doctoral thesis is available and published. If you're interested, I can send you. I can DM it to you.
Absolutely. Please do.
I don't like to share it on Twitch just for the
No
sake
problem.
of...
No, I understand. I'm just giving you the
It has real life details about me in it.
Some writers like to have, like, you know, they have hyperlinks to certain pieces that they've written that they want to share, and they leave other ones out. And you know, I don't know how you've manicured your, you know. I feel you.
As far as my Earthrealm identity goes,
yes,
it would be eminently easy for anybody to determine via cave dwelling music and academic means. So I'm not necessarily against. I'm not against sharing it through Twitch and my public.
I feel the same way.
I'm not against doing that. It's just that I just tend not to broadcast it. But if you want it,
yes.
I will DM it to you.
No, I feel the same way. I have a foot in two worlds as well, and it's complicated. And maybe we can talk about those struggles as well sometime.
Yeah,
it's kind of
like public.
It's kind of like not Mark. Who's the main character in the movie? What's his name?
There's a movie.
The movie, yeah.
I thought we were talking about the movie.
Oh, wait, hold on. Do we want to let Dr. Yaz introduce A Better World because he selected
A Better Tomorrow.
Better Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I've been doing that all week. I know it's Better Tomorrow. I have.
You didn't watch the movie.
I even listened to the Wu-Tang album and the song called "The." You know, listen. I know what it's just. I don't know why that. All right, please.
But what I was going to say is it's thematically relevant having a foot in two worlds. Like it's kind of like the problem that Ho has in this film that we're watching.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amazing segue. Give me a pat on the back.
You're the best.
The movie is Better Tomorrow.
You're the top Australian in the chat right now.
All right. Dr. Yasmin, can you talk about why you picked this film?
I picked this film because this, at least to me, this is one of those, everybody has those movies which are like, you might characterize as those like beloved movies for you. This is one of mine. So owing that it's a Hong Kong movie from the 80s, depending on who you're speaking to, a lot of people probably haven't seen this. If you're in Hong Kong, it's a very famous movie. Outside of Hong Kong, unless you're like a real cinema head, you probably haven't seen it. It's one of the early movies of John Woo, who everybody knows, of course. If you're listening to this podcast and you somehow haven't heard of John Woo is a very famous Hong Kong and Hollywood director, known primarily for his action skills. Quentin Tarantino once compared John Woo action sequences to ballet in terms of how finely coordinated and choreographed they are.
Yes.
And I think that really shows. And this is A Better Tomorrow. This is the early days. This is John Woo sort of just starting on his journey. And you can still see those skills. Another thing that I think that John Woo, I don't feel that he's famous for necessarily, but I wish that he was. And it really shows in his early Hong Kong movies, especially, is he has a real talent for like bringing out a bit of drama, a bit of that brotherly love, that loyalty, camaraderie, which A Better Tomorrow is full of. So it came out in 1986. And it features T. Lung, who is a veteran actor in Hong Kong nowadays. Leslie Chung. T. Lung plays Sung Si Ho, brother Ho, and Leslie Chung plays Sung Si Kit, who is a police inspector. Who Leslie Chung, a fantastic actor, died quite young. At the age of 46, died quite young.
He was powerful in this.
He was great.
A brilliant performance, and of course, last but not least, that I'm going to name here is Chow Yun-fat, who plays Brother Mark, who is
coolest man alive.
Such a brilliant.
He's so good. And we've talked about Chow Yun-fat on this podcast before because we talked about Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, where he played Sao Feng. And he's great in that film
like
as well.
Old circus elephant trotted out for the final. That's so sad. I don't want to see Chow Yun-fat. I want to see Chow Yun-fat like this.
But he's so good
at it like that. Disney just wrote a check.
He's
They're
bloody.
just trying to
but-
sell it to Chinese eyes. That's
Get
the
out
reason
of
why they
here!
put Italian fat.
This is not
This
the
is
Pirates episode.
criticism.
You can't be shitting on the
Do
Pirates
anything
episode in this
I want.
in the Better Tomorrow episode. Come on,
Let's
come
get
on.
back to A Better Tomorrow.
Yeah. So for me, John Woo is someone I've only seen his Hollywood films. I've seen
That's pretty
Mission
common.
Impossible 2, which I'm not a fan of. And
Romeo Must
Face
Die.
Off, which
Romeo Must
and
Die.
I mean, Face Off is a lot of fun. It's
Mhm.
very cringy, but in an unabashed way. And
Campy.
campy, yeah.
Right?
And what I love about John Woo, firstly, is I feel like he's so sincere. Like just the way
Yeah.
he directs his actors, the way he frames everything. Everything is so over dramatic. Really,
Opera.
yeah.
He makes
It's an opera. Yeah, exactly.
Chinese opera, though, not
You
Western
can really
opera.
see. I hate to interrupt, but I mean,
Yeah, go
you
ahead.
can really see in his watching these earlier John Woo Hong Kong movies where
Yeah.
Hollywood interference, and this is something a lot of United States directors, people in the industry over there complained about with John Woo, like knowing the types of movies and the skills that he has. When Hollywood producers would come in and they would just edit and they would over direct and that's why he ultimately left Hollywood. But you can see, I guess what I'm saying is you can see how much of this stuff shines in his here in A Better Tomorrow,
Yeah.
which you can't. It makes you wish that they didn't hover over.
Yeah,
him
so
so much.
was
in
budget,
this-
Hollywood.
right? There's no budget,
Yeah.
so it has to be efficient.
So was
Yeah.
A Better Tomorrow, was it produced by an Americans, or was it produced by...
It was yeah, so this is before he got to Hollywood, and
Mhm.
it was produced by somebody that he had worked with. He worked with on a few movies back then.
Tsui Hark?
By Tsui Hark, yeah,
No?
who is himself a very well known Hong Kong director. In those days, he
Writer.
was a producer. He also
writer.
produced he produced he also produced A Better Tomorrow too, and
Yeah.
he directed the third movie. But we
The
can talk about
prequel,
that.
right? The
We
third
can talk
one,
about
right?
that. The third
Yeah.
one is a prequel, and there's some
Mhm.
complicated stuff. I guess we can about the production of the third movie. We
Let's
can
do it.
save
That's
that
why
for-
we're here.
That's
Oh,
what
let's,
we can-
let's go and do it now.
We can
Okay,
do it
if
for
you
all
want to,
night.
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Three
Listen,
movies.
we have all night.
there are three movies. This is a franchise, technically. Well, not
Yeah.
technically. It is a franchise. My personal favorite. Now, when I was invited on this podcast,
Mhm.
I really wanted to say A Better Tomorrow too. And when I tell people about the A Better Tomorrow movies, the movie that I really want them to watch, and I love A Better Tomorrow so much, the first movie, but what I really want people to watch is the second one.
I will.
But to
Please
really
come back and we'll do it.
Yeah, we're
I,
here
I
again.
would
Yeah.
love to. I absolutely would love to. But because to really fully appreciate the second one, you have to see the first.
See the
one and
first one, yeah.
and the characters in it.
And
Yeah,
you were
so
gonna you were thinking about The Killer as well. Why were you
The Killer?
considering that one?
Because it's sort of like it's The Killer is where you get to early John Woo's career. When you get to The Killer, it's where he is kind of at the peak of early Hong Kong John Woo. It's like the peak, what I would think of in terms of just the pure technical side of things.
Mm.
The Killer is probably the peak of pre-Hollywood John Woo.
Mm. It's interesting you say that because when because I'd seen Face Off and Mission Impossible 2, and I wasn't in love with them, but I had heard, like, the film that I had heard was his, like, huge film pre-Hollywood was Hard Boiled. And that was yeah. And when Pragpro was saying,
was amazing.
when Pragpro said you're going to pick a John Woo film, I was like, fingers crossed. I hope it's Hard Boiled. But
I can come back for that too down the line.
You're the John Woo guy. You're just going to come.
I mean,
Come on,
we're
different
touching
time.
on them. Listen, when we're talking about the director, like when we did the Tarantino, we did the Hateful Eight. We talked about different Tarantino projects too, so feel free.
I will absolutely evangelize early John Woo. I mean, I'm a big fan, but Hard Boiled is great. But something I want to quickly get out of the way because there may be questions. The second one, Chow Yun Fat does return, but I'm not going to say why because it's best to go in kind of blind for that. But the third one is a prequel, and it's not actually directed by John Woo, even though he wrote the script, and it was supposed to be. So there's a little bit of interesting kind of what ifs and what could have beens with the third movie because so John Woo and Soy Hark, who had worked together extensively by the point of A Better Tomorrow 3, they had basically a massive blow up fallout argument about what the third movie should look like. And so it was such a massive disagreement that they could not work together anymore. And John Woo quit. He quit the movie. He actually quit the movie. And Soy Hark was like, what the hell am I going to do? So he just directed. and then John Woo was so pissed that he ended up writing a whole new movie, which was, in effect, like Better Tomorrow 3, but without any trademarkable names.
Yeah.
And that's called Bullet in the Head, which is also a very good John Woo movie.
That's not a Hollywood film? That's a Hong Kong film.
Yeah, that's still an early Hong Kong movie. It's one of his later ones, I think, before he went to Hollywood.
And they've remade this film a couple times.
Yeah, because I know Stallone was in a Bullet in the Head. Is that
I don't know.
Yeah, I've only seen the original, so I can't really comment on the really comment on subsequent movies. Bullet in the Head basically was, I think Hard Boiled was actually the last movie he made before John Woo made before he went off to Hollywood. So then there's like a heist movie that I haven't seen. I don't know. It's Once a Thief, I think it is. But he made Hard Target straight after Hard Boiled.
Yeah,
I want to get to Time's thoughts on this film, but just before that, I do have an interesting question. I was wondering, what do you think? Why do you think? Because I feel like his Hollywood films are clearly inferior to his Hong Kong films, at least from what I've seen. Why do you think his sensibilities don't translate in Hollywood compared to when he does it in Hong Kong? Do you think it's just like a barrier, or
what I've heard? What I've heard is that what I've always read with John Woo's Hollywood career is that he has basically been plagued by producers that won't. Are we allowed to swear in this podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, he's been plagued by Hollywood producers that won't fuck off. Like, they constantly, like, when he was making Face Off, this happened a bit. It especially happened during Mission Impossible.
And he made Broken Arrow right before that one, right, too? Back to back, kind of similar movies, too.
Yeah, and so in all three of these movies, especially these three movies, he it happened with Windtalkers as well. So he basically, so he would be there on the set making decisions and choreographing and dealing with actors, and he would have producers constantly come up and say, "We don't do that in Hollywood. You can't do that." And then when it came down to editing, the same thing would be happening. So he straight up left left Hollywood for a while there, and that's where he made a brilliant movie. And it shows, and again, it shows how great John Woo is, because he didn't go back to Hong Kong straight away. He went to mainland China, where he made a movie called Red Cliff. And it was fucking brilliant.
All right, I need to watch it.
It's an adaptation of, so it's actually a two-part movie. You'll often see it put as a single part, again, because Hollywood loves to take John Woo movies and fuck with them. So what they did was, instead of releasing Red Cliff Part 1 and then Red Cliff Part 2, this is mid-2000s. This is mid-2000s. So they were still ruthless on fucking with him. And so they merged them together in this horrific edit.
So they did an anti-Kill Bill. They did the opposite of Kill Bill.
Yeah, exactly what they did. So if you watch Red Cliff, get the parts with Chinese subs and English subs, and part 1 and part 2, two different movies. Don't watch the one that's merged together.
They did that with The
Okay.
Kingdom. Remember that Danish horror film about the psychotic hospital? Have you ever seen The Kingdom? They tried to
No.
make an edited version of that, and that was like meant to be in 2 big parts.
Wicked.
That's
Yeah,
a
I know of
crazy
it.
movie.
I haven't seen it.
Mm.
But my take on that basically, and I would say, you can kind of, if you watch, especially if you watch Face Off and you watch Mission Impossible 2,
Mm.
I know a lot of people, Face Off is beloved for a lot of people. You can see, I think Face Off is probably the movie where John Woo his Hollywood movie where his talent and his style comes through the most.
Mhm.
I think that shows. Mission Impossible 2, you can see shades of it, but it's
Yeah.
like it's
It's like they brought
just
him in for the action only. And for
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
John.
yeah.
It was probably like Tom Cruise said, "I really want to have John Woo," and then probably
Mission Impossible,
he got involved.
it makes
Tom
me so
Cruise.
angry because if you watch A Better Tomorrow and you see just the brilliance of the drama in it,
Mhm.
the action.
I want to ask this guy about the gun.
Yeah,
What does Time think
absolutely.
about
Imagine what he
some
could
of the action
do.
in this, though?
Yeah, imagine what he could do if they just left him to make the movie
Yeah.
when he's there making Mission Impossible 2. Imagine the fucking amazing movie he could have made.
We could have had a banger.
And that's-
Because a Mission Impossible is like a pretty like besides Mission Impossible 2, like every film in the Mission Impossible franchise is pretty much like really solid. It's only
Tom
Mission Impossible
Cruise
2.
is running that fucking
Yeah.
whole show.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
doesn't get to, he's the kind of producers that he's writing and directing.
Mhm.
Essentially.
There's a Tarantino interview. There's an old Tarantino interview where they asked him about what he thinks about John Woo, and he related like a story where he got really pissed at this Hollywood producer guy who I think they were talking about John Woo, and the producer guy goes, "Oh yeah, I guess he can direct action scenes pretty well." And Tarantino responded to him.
He's the harness
Tarantino's
god.
response was yeah, and Michelangelo could paint a ceiling, I guess.
You know what? I bet
That's a
Tom
great
Cruise.
response.
I'll tell you what happened. Tom Cruise wanted to learn from John Woo, so he got the studio to hire him to be the director, and then Tom Cruise watched him and studied the whole fucking time and used that for the rest of his career.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Time, are you here?
Yeah, man.
All right, I'm just checking.
I wanted to ask
I'm very
Time.
captivated by Dr. Yasman. He's
I told you to fuck with this guy and check out his
Oh my
stream
god!
at
Oh my
Dr.
god!
Yasman.
Oh my god!
God damn, he's like
I was
amazing.
shut down. I was shut down for the rest of his interview. I swear to God.
He's
Fine, that's
glamoring
fine.
you. He's glamoring you. He's a vampire. Be careful.
Where does? So I know next to nothing about John Woo, except that he can't do action, obviously. So where does this movie? Where is it at in terms of like hard boiled? As far as like how early in the career is it? How late in the career is it? As far as the Hong Kong filmography.
It's probably right in the middle. A Better Tomorrow is probably
Okay.
it's like you can characterize it as early John Woo, but in terms of when John Woo was really like starting to make a name for himself, A Better Tomorrow is right around the time that he was starting to really make a name for
Yeah,
himself.
because
It
what
was
his first
Okay.
movie 1968. So he
68?
was already
Oh shit!
so he already had
Yeah.
20 years in the game before this
Yeah.
one.
Okay. Yeah.
He had
Wow.
made made quite a few movies, but he really what you have to understand about like the reason why when we say like early John Woo, we're talking about like A Better Tomorrow and to some extent like Riches to Rags, which is 1980. He made a lot of his movies before the mid 80s were martial arts movies. And the Hong Kong martial arts movie world is not very much was not like making a normal movie. You were sort of just like a hired hand coming in to do some directing. You're a glorified second
Cafe.
choreographer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cafe was the production house. Yeah.
You're not really there expected to make. You're not really expected to make. Like, so he has one movie that's super, technically speaking, super early called Hand of Death, which I think was in like the 70s or something like that, and And it's, it's just this. I have a passion. I also have a passion besides John Woo. I also have a passion in Hong Kong cinema, in martial arts movies. So I love the particularly martial arts movies made between 1960 and around 1990 or so. That's the time frame of stuff that I like in the genre. Because it's a certain era. But anyway, you're not really brought in to sort of be a creative guy. You're not really there to make your movie. You're just there to. It's kind of like, and I'm not shading them because I honestly enjoy the vast majority of the movies they release. But it's kind of like being a Marvel director. You're not really there to. Most of the time, for most of them, there's already a vision in place. Everything that's in the movie is already decided before you get there. The casting, you've got some limited role in, but the set pieces, all of that stuff is decided before you get there. So that's why, and I'm not trying to downplay his
because they're doing TV, right? Because they're mostly doing TV and they're recreating famous Chinese myths and things that are going to go over to a very conservative culture in 1967 that doesn't have really TV.
The martial arts, and the martial arts movies were generally pretty set. They were released in big blocks, and then they'd get sent over to like they'd get sent internationally for they'd get dubbed and they'd just get pushed out.
New York and San Francisco. They probably had more eyes saw them in New York and San Francisco than anywhere else, probably, right?
These were basically just cheap movies, like, and so you see a lot of the same people, like Shaw Brothers, Golden Harvest, like the same kind of studios, like doing them over and over again.
So would you say he didn't really come into his own until he started doing the action movies, like in the 80s?
These were different. Better Tomorrow is different. That's considered the first gore gangster. There's a whole genre of films that this one capped off.
So really what you can see is he actually, I believe he actually was considering quitting directing a couple of years before A Better Tomorrow even came out. Before he even got to start on it, he was ready to quit. Because he basically had professional burnout from just grinding on these martial arts movies, and he was going nowhere, and he had big ideas. So A Better Tomorrow is where we start talking about early John Woo, because this was like his dream project that he had thought of in the back of his head.
But couldn't get made until 86.
Yeah, because that was an insane amount of violence in 1986.
I know it's a weird analogy to make, but there's a lot of musical artists that have like a song that they had in the back of their head for a long time, like November Rain with Guns N' Roses, like Axl Rose kind of was tooling around with for years before he made it. And because it's such a huge song with the piano and it's like 10 minutes long, and it's like you can't just release that. You've got to kind of, so he was getting ready to quit, and he didn't have any creative control. And then Tsui Hark basically had he kind of stepped back from movies, and Tsui Hark basically
brought him under his wing.
Took him under his wing, and he literally just said, "I'm just going to give you money. I'm just going to give you money so you can just do a thing that you want to do, whatever it is. I don't care what it is, but I feel that from you it's going to be good."
Right? Who's his patron?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
the Medici.
He basically just threw money at him. He just straight up gave him money,
like Verona,
and asked him to make a movie. And so that's how we get A Better Tomorrow.
All right. So this is my favorite moment of every episode, right? So coming into this, knowing nothing about John Woo,
nothing.
Coming into this first time watch, what did you think?
Oh, hold on, are we already getting to the end?
No, at the start.
I didn't even.
I want to know how we felt.
I want to start with the first scene. I want to start with the first scene and go through.
Yeah, I know, but I want to know how we felt before we get into it.
Let's hit time.
If he says the wrong thing, I'm going to get annoyed, and it's not going to go well. So I hope he's smart.
This is the moment.
How did you feel going in?
Before you came into the call, Yaz, I had kind of said that I feel like I watched two movies at one time, and they were very confused. So when I'll expand on that, I watched the movie, and obviously it's in Cantonese, I'm assuming. Is that what it's in?
Yes, Cantonese.
Okay, so it's in that. So it's subtitled.
Yeah.
But I found a dub version of it that still has the subtitles. That was a nightmare and it made the movie hilarious.
Yeah, that's a
so I don't know
comedy.
if the movie's supposed to be funny, but I found it so goddamn hilarious.
No, Dodge would do that.
None of it ever matched up. Like someone would like
The Americans in that are
at the very
hilarious,
beginning.
right?
At the very beginning, when you first see Brother Mark,
You probably shouldn't have watched it that way.
I shouldn't, but I couldn't stop. It was
Doctor,
just so
listen,
funny.
Doctor, we're just happy he watched it.
It was,
Okay,
it
we're
was
just
so
happy he
funny.
watched it.
Yeah, at the very beginning, when he gets the food at the little food cart, and then he takes off, or the food cart takes off, whatever, and he's like, oh, when he chases him, and he goes, here, don't forget your plate. That's what he says, the subtitles, but
Right.
the English version never says anything, so it's just super awkward. He's just like, and I'm like, he's not saying anything. And then the conversation with the people when he trades the money, like none of it made any sense. And I
How
was
you
like,
doing?
Yeah.
I go,
Oh,
what am
where
I,
did you get
what
your
am I
haircut?
watching?
Where did you get your haircut?
There were
We should
two
have
audio
dinner.
versions, and one was super bad, and the other one was like better. So I watched
Why
the
didn't
better
you
one.
watch the Cantonese one?
You just gotta
Watch
watch
their
it.
I did. I watched them at the
You
same
don't need to
time.
know the language to watch their eyes and see the
What do you
actors
wait?
move.
I don't
You even
understand.
know.
So you watched the Cantonese and dub version at the same time. How
I
does
had
that?
the audio and the subtitles at the same time, so I did kind of like I was looking back and forth, or I was
You watched
listening.
this way-
Two
watching-
screens.
No. Hold on.
You watch the Eastern European style. So in Eastern Europe, there's a thing they do, right? So you know, like if you know about the European cinema, right? They love to dub over movies because like
Mhm.
that. So like they have all these Germans, for example, that
Mhm.
watch Pulp Fiction, and they go, "Oh yeah, Samuel L. Jackson. Oh, I can do better than that just with my voice alone." So, but in Eastern Europe, what they do instead of just dubbing over it, what they do is there's even a Simpsons bit I think that kind of makes fun of this. But what they do is they'll take the original audio track, they'll leave it completely in, and they'll put their dub track layered over the top of that, so you can kind of hear both at the
Italians
same time.
do that. Italians
Yeah,
do
Italians do
that, yeah,
shit.
Italians do that, yeah.
The
Yeah,
French,
I remember watching Suspiria, and they do that. Dario Argento's Suspiria.
Oh
But-
yeah,
But not just that, but like
Alright.
so they have English actors and Italian actors in Suspiria. So
right.
the English version, all the Italian actors are dubbed over, but the
Oh,
English
yeah.
actors are normal. And then in the opposite, like in the
Psychedelic.
Italian version, in the Italian version, all the English actors are dubbed over with Italian actors, but all the Italian actors speak normal. So there's no there's no like consistent.
I might have to
And
pick that
like
movie.
and the English actors would talk to the Italian actors, but you could tell that they didn't know what the other actor was saying.
The same.
Mhm.
So they were just responding with their lines in the
That's loving,
script.
Crazy.
But
It's
so
fun.
I'm guessing that's the kind of version that Time watched.
Kind of.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Central
It was,
Eastern European
It was.
double audio track dub.
Yeah, it was weird.
But did you still get like the character dynamics, like the camaraderie between them?
yeah,
Because
oh,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
the visuals
Yeah.
of
It's
them,
Heat.
and
It's the same plot as Heat. It's essentially
Is it?
the same plot
Kinda.
as Heat. Yeah, you got a cop.
kinda,
going-
yeah,
I mean, kind of. You have the two.
Yeah.
yeah.
All gangster movies are essentially based on this movie. You know,
Yeah.
when you think about it, as they expand through time from '86, this is considered landmark.
Yeah, you have the cop who's too obsessed with his job and neglects his
Mhm.
wife. It's the same sort of thing
Yeah.
as in Heat, and
Yeah.
God, he's such an
Let's
asshole.
talk
right?
about the relationship
the
between Mark
husband.
and
Oh,
Ho.
boy.
Mark and
Yeah.
Ho are
Wait. Before we talk about that, I want.
We're more brothers than Kit and Ho.
Christ, I want to rock with those two. They can't be stopped. Their
Don't forget
relationship.
that the sexual tension in that one scene where
Oh
they're
my God.
reunited. I don't think
Yeah,
I
when
was
they
watching
were
that.
reunited. I thought they were
The
gonna make out.
whole movie.
For
It's the
real,
most
yeah.
sexually tense
so
film ever
yeah.
made. They're fucking when they're off camera.
I
I'm
waited for
sorry.
you for 3 years, and I was like, "Oh shit, they're gonna fuck." Oh shit.
Mark's like, I'm gonna wait for you, and then
It's so sincere. It's so good.
No more. They're like,
But
That melodramatic stuff is crazy.
It was
opera, though.
crazy.
That's like Chinese opera, though, right?
Love it.
just
Yeah.
quickly, can I talk about Kit and his wife, right? So he goes, his wife is like trying to get him to pay attention to him. Like she's trying to get him to pay attention to her,
Yeah.
and he's like, and she's like, you forgot my birthday, and
yeah.
she'd already lit all the candles.
Oh, I love this.
And she's sitting there like this.
Yeah, and then suddenly he's like, And then he gives her a present. He's like, I didn't forget. Like, why did he gaslight her for like the whole afternoon?
The whole timing of where he's there, she's really pissed at him.
Yeah.
And so he's sitting there at his typewriter. So she goes and turns all the lights off. And she sits down, and the camera's like on her, and then you just see Kid in the background, and he flips on his little desk lamp.
Such an asshole.
Even before that, she goes, "You probably don't even know what day it is." And then he just walks off, and he doesn't answer her.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Yeah, she needs to run as quickly as possible.
She wants to be with Ho, because she's always meeting up with Ho, like at the theater, giving her the screen. What's up? What's going on with my brother?
Like,
not much. You know,
I think she's supposed to be like very invested in their family, because you see like she takes care of the dad.
Yes,
she takes care of Kit's dad
until he dies, but yes.
Yeah.
That's why Kit's mad. That's his impetus for all of his revenge against his brothers, because he dishonored.
Because he let his dad die. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he doesn't even know. I think he doesn't even know that his dad was a gangster as well. So like, from Kit's perspective, his dad was this innocent guy who gets
Pollyanna as fuck. Come on, Kit doesn't know what's going on with his brother and his dad. Come on, everyone knows what the fuck. Come on, Kit.
He's a cop. So he's kind of clueless.
Yeah, but he's in high school and he becomes a cop.
Yeah.
The jogging scene. That's a funny scene too. When he's jogging and he sees his brother and they're doing the play fighting. And at one point, I think they're really going to bust into a fight.
Yeah. I also love at there's the big garage fight scene where the mob all come and they're beating up the garage owner.
Oh yeah.
And the guy
who plays Ken? I love Ken. Who plays Ken?
He's so good.
He's great.
Great actor.
But yeah, Ho saves him from getting beaten to death, and then he's like, no violence. You're not allowed to. You can't beat him up.
Yeah, he doesn't want him to fight back.
He doesn't want him to fight back. It's like, no, he saved you from death just then. Did you not realize that?
Well, he pushed that dude's head into the window, and it's like the blade's like right there, and he's like, no violence, no violence,
no violence. Yeah.
He comes back in The Killer, actually.
Oh, does he? That actor?
Yeah.
Or...
That actor,
Ken?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out who he is.
His name's Kenneth. His actual name is legit Ken too.
Oh my god!
Kenneth Sang.
Ken's performance as Ken in A Better Tomorrow is so great, because he's like taking care of all of his homies who are out of the can, and he gives them jobs.
He has a great line too, unless it's different.
And he's
from
doing
the version I heard.
He's got the tea. Remember, he's got the tea, and he's like, I'm going to charge you for this tea.
He's in Police Story 3 as well.
It goes hard, yeah.
I recognize
him. It's been a while
him
since I watched that.
So, the other thing that's interesting about this film is you look at this poster, right? Like the poster with him burning the money, and it's all... And I expected going into this that this was going to be a film that was going to be about them being in the mob. Like I expected it to be like The Godfather or
you
know, like also Heat is like he's in the mob. It's all about them taking, but no, like it starts off that way. Yeah, it starts off that way, and then very quickly, early on in the film,
Rolls Royces.
He goes to prison. He gets out, and both him and Mark aren't in the mob. And they're like, the whole point of the film is them trying to break free of that criminal enterprise.
And that
was surprising to me. Yeah,
heartbreaking seeing him after the time jump, and like see him there, and he's
Dr. Yaz, I can't even talk about that scene. It's gonna, it was very moving.
It's gonna hit you hard. Yeah. And that was what was so surprising about the film for me, is that it went in a direction that I wasn't expecting, because the opening of the film was what I thought the film was going to be, and then it very quickly does a time jump and just changes into something completely different.
I know why this is the number 2, top 3 film, and still considered in Asia, is because of the swagger between Ho and Mark when they're doing the deal in the beginning. They got the cars, and it must be 1986. If you're seeing that in Hong Kong, you're like, oh, I got to get a trench coat. I got to get the glasses.
Can you imagine? That's the scene where Mark, early on in the movie, where the big boss says to him, I think it's Mr. Yu, the real big boss at that point, before Shing's the big boss. I think Mr. Yu says to him, like, he's like, "Oh, we know who the traitor is. Do you want to go sort that? Can you, can we deal with it?" And Mark is like, "I'll go do it." And Mr. Yu is like, he's like, "Well, I'll round everybody up. Like, I'll get everybody there to back you up." And he's like, "No, I'll do it.
Yeah,
just me.
He's
me.
the enforcer, though, right?
And
That's his job.
And he goes down to the club, and so that scene of him, like, he's got a girl with him, and he's walking down the corridor, and he's like putting a gun in every pot plant along the way as like backups, and like. Yeah, imagine seeing that for the first time.
Oh my god, it's like the gunfights are
nothing
so
like
sick.
That, like in the 80s, and like there are no movies like that have been made.
Yeah,
like, this is the first. This is like the originator.
There's like the slow
mo
scene.
We have like John Wick. We have
There's the slow motion scene where he's getting beat up by Shig. Like Mark, he's getting tuned up by the big boss, so you can't fight back. And there's like a slow motion where his nose starts to bleed, and then it just blows, it gushes out, and I wonder if how they did that, because it just explodes out of his nose. They must have had some sort of practical effect or something, because it's an amazing amount of blood that comes out of him in that scene. But it's a gory movie for especially in Asia.
Sure.
I mean, people were not seeing gunfights and stuff. We're so used to that kind of stuff, but big gunfights like that. It was new, and it was intense. It was amazing.
There was nothing, and this is for any movie because it just happens this way. There's nothing more badass than just coming out in all white.
Oh yeah,
His
fucking white moment
crazy
in the beginning. I'm
crazy.
When I saw the beginning,
the time jump.
Yeah,
he's walking out, and he's got his boys, and he's looking all sick with his white coat. Like,
I was like, these guys fuck 100%.
Listen, and they're smart. They put that all in the front. They front loaded that in the movie, and people were on, because if you front loaded some of the drama stuff, you would have lost part of the audience. But I don't know. I think that's credit to his understanding. He had 20 years as a director at that point. Yes, and he did it right. It was just an amazing montage.
It kind of reminds me of, and I know this is a lot more recent, but The Irishman, right? Because the first half
in Hollywood, it reminded me of too.
The Irishman is
Brad Pitt.
Martin Scorsese's like 4-hour mob film. The first half of the Irishman is all about the mob and like how they built that up and how it kind of came crumbling down again. But then the second half is just like this like character drama between these friends and how much their crimes of the past have affected them and come to bite them, and just how much they try to escape that kind of pain that has that they've inflicted on themselves, basically.
I would imagine that that he's probably influenced by these movies in some way. Like Scorsese. Scorsese is known as a big fan of Hong Kong cinema. I mean, one of his most well-known movies, The Departed, like is a remake of Infernal Affairs. So
yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know that.
Wow.
All the great directors admire John. I don't know if you're not. I mean, I've never heard a director say. I mean, listen, he's goated. Okay, he's just like one of those guys.
He's untouchable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Kurosawa almost, that level. Akira Kurosawa,
for his impact on theater, especially
as TV director too, I'm sure. I was interesting. The music for this was. Do you guys
love the music?
So good.
They were clipping from Brian Eno album, and they were clipping from the Birdie soundtrack by Peter Gabriel. They didn't actually.
I just watched that movie recently.
Did you notice that they were using Birdie's theme over and over again in this movie? And I looked it up on Wikipedia, and they confirmed it. So I don't know how they did the music for this. It seems like they just were clipping other films.
The soundtrack is amazing.
No, it's great. I love it. It's amazing.
That main theme, so good.
Yeah.
Is that from Birdie?
No,
because it's like the harmonica piece, and there's also that harpsichord. It's like that harmonica piece that they have.
I'm pretty sure it's original for this movie.
And then they have that beautiful harpsichord. They have that little harpsichord bit that they do a lot when they're not doing the harmonica theme. I'd be interested.
Yeah, that little.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Flourish. Because you don't expect harmonica in Hong Kong. You don't expect harpsichord.
Yeah, Joseph Koo is the guy that composed it.
Okay. Shout out.
Yeah.
Amazing. The other thing I want to talk about also is just the way that this film looks. It's like one of, and I don't know if this is just Hong Kong directors in general, but the color design in this film is just absolutely gorgeous. Just like the way they use like blue lights and red lights on their faces
neons,
and the neons and stuff. It reminded me a lot of the other Hong Kong film that I'm a huge fan of, In the Mood for Love by Wong Kar-wai. If any of you have seen that,
I haven't seen it. Dr. Yaz, I'm sure has.
I've seen a few of his movies. I haven't seen
talk about it.
Yeah.
No, talk about it.
So there's also Fallen Angels as well, which is an incredible Wong Kar-wai film. Yeah. Basically, just the Hong Kong directors, they just seem to have an eye for just color and using color to the most vibrant ability that they can. And A Better Tomorrow is another example of that. I'm just thinking about like the final showdown, the final gunfight, and just like the backlighting behind them, and
the flicker of lights on their face. And,
and like they zoom in close to their face, and like every bead of sweat is like reflecting a color of light.
Anytime you see him in like a club, anytime you see him in a club, and the lighting in there is like, you know, like when you see him at the table, you know, the scene that we did the table reading of. The lighting in that scene alone, when like you see the stark difference when they're sitting at the table and they're having fun and there's music, and the way everything is arranged visually, and then when they're in the alley, the back alley, and it's stark and it's and it looks like a terrible place to be by comparison.
The family scenes are so muted, like everything's like taupe and like white light when it's a scene with the mother and the sister, you know. But then when they get out into the street, into the neon heat disease of the night, you get all those beautiful shots in the rain, and you know, there's so many great like Romeo Must Die is another like a film inspired by Hong Kong, and a lot of those films. I think what Hollywood tries to do is just make the whole film. They set the whole film at night. They'll set the whole, you know, they'll make everything but they overplay the aesthetic and
to the detriment.
You know, there should be balance. There should be balance, right? There should be heaven and earth. There should be
there's one John
Woo. You got to have balance in
There is one signature John Woo trope. Well, it's not really a trope. It's just part of his style. I don't think actually is in this movie. I might be wrong, but he likes to use doves.
There's no doves in this movie.
There's no doves in this movie.
Doves in this movie.
True.
Most of his other movies though have doves at some point. Even like his other movies, like straight after this, you know, and you watch like Hard Boiled, and you watch The Killer, and you watch Bullet in the Head, and they've all got doves. This one doesn't have that yet.
What does that represent for him?
Signature John Woo thing that's not in the movie.
Did the second one have it?
But what's the dove? The dove a metaphor for? Is that supposed to be, you know, maybe the plot point?
I think I looked it up. It was like
probably peace.
It was like supposed to be signifying like purity and stuff like that. Like you become like a new person or something like that.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah,
it's also interesting to me because I feel like the visual aesthetic of this film also it's kind of got a very like Blade Runner-esque like look.
I think this is where Blade Runner stole it from Hong Kong. I think Ridley Scott stole that.
Actually, Blade Runner was from 1982, so I get the feeling that
this was inspired by that.
I get the feeling
back in time to steal it. That's what it was.
No, well, I feel like
Cyberpunk is influenced a lot by, you know, that same aesthetic. It's interesting that they both use that aesthetic, right? Because
but it's also
is Eastern in those worlds,
and the themes are sort of similar because he's a Blade Runner, which is basically like a robot cop in Blade Runner, and he's trying to escape that as well. No. I'm not saying he's a robot. I'm saying
I haven't seen
it. He's like a cop, and he's
a cop.
He's basically an assassin.
Yeah, he's an assassin of robots, and that's
he wants out. He wants out as well.
Are you fine with him, or have you not seen Blade Runner?
I haven't seen. I literally just put it on my watch library thing I have.
You got to watch that. You got to watch it back to back.
Yeah. But not just that, like one of the most famous shots in Blade Runner is a dove flying up into the sky after Rutger Hauer's speech. So I'm wondering, And also just the visual aesthetic of that film and this film, like the kind of neon lights and
the darkness and contrast.
Yeah, it's very similar to this.
In Asia, you have to live at night in a lot of places during the hot season, right? You go to the market and eat, and everything's lit up with neon. And that's, when you're making Blade Runner, you're thinking about a future where the East and West have merged, and so there's going to be a lot more of those nighttime aesthetics. And also the theory that climate change in the future is also reflected in the fact that life is going on at night because it's probably too fucking hot during the day.
I think in Cyberpunk it was my understanding of the Cyberpunk visual is that the main influence was a bit of Hong Kong but primarily Japan, because there was a perception in the 80s that
Japan was technologically advanced, right?
Yeah. That it was technologically advanced, but also that it was going to be like the dominant superpower in the future.
Yeah, that's right.
Of course, this is before like stagnation hit Japan in the 90s, and it's still financially a superpower.
Population bomb.
Yeah.
The trajectory of what they thought was going to happen economically, because Japan was
making babies. Their GDP, they didn't expand their GDP.
They were in the middle of a massive economic boom, basically.
Yes.
And the perception was that was going to continue for a long time to come. It didn't. And so
they thought, like, the perception was that they were going to get more technologically advanced in other countries, and eventually that was going to dominate the culture.
The industrialization, Western culture was dominant because of industrialization, and as the East becomes industrialized, the thinking probably went that those cultural things, the advertising required to fed a consumer from the West and East is going to overlap. In the future, they're thinking, right? So they're saying, well, there's going to be a lot of, if you look at Los Angeles, you go to Koreatown, there's a lot of blending of East and West because the market demands it, right? And I think they're probably inspired by LA a lot.
Absolutely.
Culturalism. It's good.
What did you think of the final shootout sequence, like between, like, when the brother decides to join his brother?
I stopped watching it.
What?
What are you talking about? I stopped watching it.
He's bullshitting.
Well, hold on.
He's funny.
Before I get to that, I don't know anything about Chow Yun-fat. All I know, if I remember right, all I know is I just know him from Pirates.
He's a big star.
No, I know he's a big star.
Let's talk about Chow Yun-fat.
I
want to talk about Chow Yun-fat.
Oh, great, yeah. Let's go derail my comment. Good. Let's go.
Let him go.
Let him derail my comment.
Let him cook first.
Go ahead, Berg.
No, I'm just saying.
Let's talk about him.
No, I'm just saying. I'm happy to hear about it.
No. What other movies has he been in? He wasn't in Face Off, right? I've seen Face Off. He wasn't in Face Off.
He was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
I've seen that one. Okay, so I've seen two movies. Okay. What else has he been in?
Hard Boiled.
You haven't seen that one. Okay.
And the Better Tomorrow series, The Killer, Once a Thief, as well.
Yeah.
He's been in heaps.
He's
okay, so
I
haven't seen him in anything. Okay, so the majority of movies I haven't seen him in. This is the only one besides Crouching Tiger, but I don't remember that movie. So the only other thing I've seen him in is that GIF of him popping out the window and then giving the thumbs up.
That's from the second movie.
That's the second one? Okay, cool. So from that one. Okay. So I don't have any attachment to this actor. I don't find him interesting. None of that stuff, right? So watching the movie now, in that first 10 minutes of him just with the food cart and then trying to get into that building and he's making those little funny faces and the guy playing the piano and he's like this, I was like, I love this guy. Who is
he's
this?
A star. You know a star when you see him.
He made himself so endearing in the movie. I'm like, this guy's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to be with this guy.
You can see why he's so famous. After
that, I got it.
He's just got that X factor, right?
Yeah, and then leading to the point at the end when he's leaving the fight, and Ho told him, just go, I'll catch up, and he knows in his head, I'm never gonna see this fucking dude again ever. And he takes off and he's just driving. You can see he's like, damn it. I'm like, turn around, Mark, turn around.
Yeah.
Run to him, run to go. And then he turns
That's
around,
your
I'm
boy.
like, yes, get back. And then obviously what happened to him, I was like, no.
People need to get together. I don't know how or why.
Yeah.
but they just need to
I mean, I said it
get
earlier. I feel
every
like they were more brothers than Ho and Kit were brothers.
They're
Oh,
fucking.
absolutely.
They're
Yeah.
not brothers because they're banging one another.
They're lovers.
So what? Let them love one another.
let them cook.
The last the shootout scene. I mean, every action scene I feel like in this movie was just crazy.
Yeah.
The only part I didn't like, but it's because I didn't get it right away, was when you mentioned earlier the when he's walking down the corridor and he's putting the guns in the plants, and I'm like, that's so dumb. Like, why would he do that? He's not gonna have any guns when he goes into the room, and then he goes in the room and he has guns, and I'm like, oh shit, he had extra guns. Those are backup guns. Oh shit.
So many guns.
That was so clever.
Because I'm gonna put all my guns in the planters.
I had the reaction the first time I saw that too. I had the same reaction. I was like, "Why is he putting all his guns in the corridor? Like, why? He needs those. You need those, man."
But they were backup
plan.
guns.
That's planning. That's what planning can do for you guys.
Yeah.
A little planning.
It's so
like that.
good. Dude, the payoff for that is so brilliant.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. It reminded me of that
Slide-
scene
yeah.
in. It reminded me of that scene in Kick-Ass. If you've seen Kick-Ass when where there's that hallway scene and she and
That's
she
a good movie.
she leaves the ammo on the ground so that when she goes back down the hallway, she just like slams the gun onto the ammo once she's out.
Little
And then
visual references.
She has back out ammo.
What a funny movie that is. Kick-Ass. What a great
Kick-Ass is
movie.
great.
It's like the way when you see Chow Yun-Fat in that scene, and when he's got his two guns and he's going like that, and that's iconic. But besides that, like the way when he runs out of ammo, he just throws them on the floor. And and I think it
walks out of the room.
I think it like cuts briefly and shows the guns hitting the floor, and then he just keeps going. Picks up another gun, and but you see little visual references to that in like movies all the time. Like the Matrix with the lobby shootout, and their guns run out of ammo, bam, throw them on the floor.
And the slow motion effect, right? They mix in the slow motion, the harness work. There's always like guys sliding, and you can see like the practical effect. And there's a scene when he's like one bad guy's like doing one of those diving shooting and he's on the harness.
It's great.
It is funny timing where he gets shot in the legs or in the knees or whatever, and then he falls forward and he's like, good thing this planter's right here with my second backup gun.
No, he knew he was going to get shot. No,
he knew he was going to get shot. That's crazy.
Angle, when he comes around that it's going to get here, and so he puts it here. It's pretty common.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
That scene where he dies on the trolley or the little flatbed, and he gets pushed across the parking lot, and he's just shooting. And when he's trying to get whatever, that was good.
He's on the trolley, right? He's on his trolley. What are you doing?
I also love that he's like
the recoil.
I also love that he's limping for nearly the whole movie, and he's got those metal braces on his leg. But then in the final scene, he is just full on booking it in the final scene, like as if it's nothing.
You know what John Woo is most influential is video games. If I think about Capcom,
he made a video
all
game.
the Resident Evil.
So true.
I'm just saying the way they do action in those in all the Resident Evil games, especially.
I'm thinking Max Payne, like
Absolutely.
the slow motion,
No, but
jumping.
He has his own video game.
I'm sure he does.
Stranglehold, yeah.
Oh,
I didn't
want to play it. Is it available?
Is it
Can we play it?
I don't think it's available.
I haven't played it, but it's pitched as a sequel to Hard Boiled.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is it the same character or
what year is it?
Yeah, Tequila.
I don't know when it came out.
It's on GOG.com. You can get it on GOG.
Okay.
Oh, you know what the game? You know what this is? Sleeping Dogs is the John Woo
Sleeping
game.
Dogs?
God,
Yeah.
You play
I
Sleeping
love
Dogs,
Sleeping
Dr.
Dogs.
Yapping?
What a banger!
I love that game. I do love that
Absolutely.
game.
I mean, why don't they make a sequel to that? I want to
Because
see
it
an
didn't make
updated version.
enough
These
money.
movies, by the way, if you enjoy, like, if you watch it Better Tomorrow and you think like, I really love what I'm seeing here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to watch more. Well, he did do more with John Woo, but if you worry for a second and you think, what if I get to the end of the John Woo early
I've run
heroic
out.
bloodshed movies?
Run out.
don't fret because he did a ton of movies. He did like I think 4 or 5 movies with a director called Ringo Lam, who's another who's in Hong Kong. Ringo Lam's not world famous like John Woo is, but Ringo Lam in Hong Kong cinema is pretty well known. He's pretty famous in Hong Kong locally, and he did some great movies as well. He did Prison on Fire. He did
City on Fire.
City on Fire, yes.
That's Reservoir Dogs. City on Fire, or that City on Fire is supposedly Reservoir Dogs is basically lifted off that movie.
Yeah, and it's Chow Yun-fat, and you'll see it if you watch it. And there's Prison on Fire 2 as well, which is also really good. So the Ringo Lam movies, Chow Yun-fat he spent like a lot of the late 80s and 90s doing like going between these and comedies, like and that was his years of like building up, and you can see. And so then when he gets later on and he's in all these huge movies like Crouching Tiger and Pirates and stuff.
Ringo Lam is crazy, heroic. What do they call the genre? I want to make sure the genre is shouted out here.
Heroic bloodshed.
Yes, heroic bloodshed. Please, Jason. Sorry.
Yeah, what's crazy about it also is that in Pirates, like, I don't think I'd seen any other movies of him, but in Pirates, he stands out in that film. Like he's a small role.
We weren't going to talk about Pirates.
I'm just glazing Chow Yun-fat right now. I'm just saying that like his influence is just and his his magneticism is just incredible. Absolutely.
What about Ho? What about the actor who played Ho? He had charisma too.
Yeah, like his eyes, like the emotion he has in his eyes is so good.
He was losing his hair. He didn't care that he was losing his hair. He didn't get a hair transplant. He was thinning. He was happy. He was fine. He was worried about.
He just owned it.
He was worried about his family. He got through his day. He didn't have to think about it.
Absolutely,
he's great in that movie.
Yeah, really good.
When they come out of prison. And they're so humbled by the whole thing, and then the gangsters like throwing the money on the floor for Mark, and Mark's like,
I hated that part.
And then they see each other for the first time again in the parking garage. He's eating rice, and there's that, and they just like pause it. He's looking up,
still stuck on his face, and he's like,
he's got a goggle eyes.
So good.
He looks like a golden retriever, and then they go to each other and they touch one another's face. And they make love in the parking garage.
Yeah, pretty much.
Amazing scene.
I remember that scene.
Yeah. When we remake it,
because when you see him in that dumpster there, and it kind of pauses on him, and you just think like it's like you're thinking the same thing that Ho is thinking, and you're thinking like, what the hell happened to you, Mark? Like, what the hell happened to you? You know what I mean? Like,
it's so well framed.
What happened to you, Ho? What happened to you? What about
it's such a contrast because you're seeing it from his viewpoint, and he sees, the new boss, and he's like, okay. And then he sees Mark, and he's like, what? Like, why are you guys like this?
This is my impersonation of Mark and Ho seeing one another for the first time again.
Oh, boy.
Because you got a big mouth of rice.
Yeah, he got a big old rice in his mouth.
Come on. It's like
it's incredible.
But, I mean, they were fighting.
Is there anything else you want to discuss about this film, Dr. Yasmin? Like maybe if you know anything about the production or just anything interesting that you have about Better Tomorrow.
I think we've covered a lot of it.
Yeah, I thought so.
I think
Don't stop now.
So there is this movie. There is actually a movie I've been wanting to watch it for ages. I haven't seen it. There is a remake of this, a Korean remake.
Yeah, 2010.
I don't know. I don't know what sort of like I don't know your filmographies of what you've seen, but like at least for me, like I guess if you know about film, like which you all do, like the Korean film industry is huge.
Yes,
and there's a lot of amazing movies that come out of Korea.
Yeah, we're going to review I Saw the Devil coming up here.
So,
there is an official Korean remake of this. I have no idea if it's any good.
Is it called A Better Tomorrow?
Yeah.
In English, it's called A Better Tomorrow. In Korean, they called it Mujakja, which means invincible. So if you know anybody who's Korean, and this was a popular movie when it came out, the remake. If you know anybody who's Korean and you go, "Have you seen A Better Tomorrow?" There's a Korean remake. The Korean remake. They're not going to know what the hell you're talking about.
Fair enough.
This happened.
No, DrYazman, because we know a Korean named Jung, and she knows about A Better Tomorrow. She knows about John Woo. She knows about this film, and she knows about the new stuff too.
Because when I first made friends with a friend of mine, he's Korean, and we got to talking about movies, and I was asking him, like, have you seen the A Better Tomorrow remake? Like, this is like around the time it came out, like the remake came out, and I was like, have you seen it? Is it good? And he's like, I never heard of that. I was like, what do you mean you never heard of it? They're all talking about it though. And he's like, and I was like, wrote the name of the movie, and he's like, never heard of it.
It's
and
a bit like
I got him to look it up there, and he's like, oh, Mujagja, I know that.
It's a bit like if I said, have you seen Infernal Affairs to Time? And Time's like,
no,
what's that? What are you talking
How about
about?
Old Boy? Remember when Spike Lee got fucking crazy and he tried to make Old Boy?
Departed.
But what I actually mean is The Departed. Yeah.
Hold on. What about Old Boy? Remember
but
when
Old Boy's called Old Boy in the ring.
It's not. Why? But why would you remake a perfect movie and make it
I
good?
ran for a very long
They do
time
that a lot
back to remake
nowadays.
Old Boy. Oh God.
So good.
I can rant about that for a long time, so I'm just going to keep talking about it.
Well, I want to hear. What do you think of Spike Lee remaking Old Boy? Was that a good idea?
Just quickly.
Let
him cook.
I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a moment. You know what? Let's do it now. I personally, I can soapbox for ages about this. I'm not going. I'll cut it short.
No, you go. Listen, I'll go with JC. Don't worry about it.
I'm not against remakes. Part of my research, like, and I'm not shilling myself, but part of my research involves. I am moving into the direction of. So part of my research, a huge part of my research involves art history, right? So, and because censorship is something I've written about extensively, and so, which I fucking hate censorship of artwork.
Me too, bro.
And so, like, I understand. From a literary perspective, I'm fine with remakes. I'm not against remakes. When a story is truly appreciated, there's a point where a story gets to a point where everybody loves it so much that it just becomes part of the canon everywhere. And remaking it is a good thing. It's a good thing. It's like with Shakespeare.
Like Spider-Man.
It's like with Spider-Man. Some of these things are going to be things that we're going to be seeing remakes of for like 100 years, and that's a good thing because people go back to the source material and they learn
retellings.
But when the movie just fucking came out like 5 years ago, that's not okay. Part of it to me is like that's not cultural canon shit. That's Hollywood appropriing. And part of it is
Spike Lee should know better. Why does Spike Lee know that?
I don't know what the answer to that is, and I feel like I'm going to remake
Jungle Fever. I'm going to remake Jungle Fever like a shit show and show it on. Fuck you.
I feel that a huge part of the reason they do this, that Hollywood does this, because especially when if you travel a lot, you go to different money for sure, but racism as well, because there's a perception that some movie made by brown people speaking a funny language isn't going to sell here, so we've got to remake it with our own people, and we're going to do better, and we're just going to shit out something, and most of the time it fucking fails. And it's a good thing that it fails, because fuck you, how dare you do that? But
people know truth and they know bullshit, and they fucking bullshit.
We know that the average person does not feel this way, because whenever these movies come out, these great movies,
like Parasite,
like Parasite is the example I was going to give. Nobody gave a shit that it had Korean dialogue. People just knew that it was a good movie. They knew that it was a good movie. The acting was fantastic. Everything about it was brilliant.
Remember,
you could have done that with Old Boy. You could have done that with Old Boy.
Yeah, look,
they just chose
let the right one in. Remember the let the right one in, the Scandinavian vampire film that Hollywood. Yeah, that's a case where they actually did okay. They did an okay.
The Matt Reeves one's okay. It's just unnecessary.
Unnecessary. Just release the original. People are gonna. If it's a good movie, they'll go see it.
People will go see it. Yeah, they don't. They can read.
The only time I feel like remakes like that are warranted is when the director. A good example? When they're transformative, right? Because I feel like the American remake of The Ring is a really transformative version of Ringu. I love both versions, but I think Gore Verbinski did an incredible job of transforming that.
That was a great one.
into his own film.
Why did it work? Why did it work? The other ones didn't, though.
Because it had a vision, and it had like a singular vision that
wasn't
just
different
aping
enough.
the original.
That's why The Departed works. That's why The Departed works, because you can tell like Scorsese had respect for Infernal Affairs, because I saw The Departed before I saw Infernal Affairs. I knew about Infernal Affairs. It was just one of those movies I'd been meaning to watch, and then The Departed came out, and then I saw it, and then I was like, you know what? I've been slacking off for ages. But if you watch Infernal Affairs and you watch The Departed, it's sort of like he didn't really. It's like technically a remake. He did remake it, but it's like he took bits and pieces from the first two movies, kind of mishmashed them together. So if you watch Infernal Affairs and then you watch The Departed, or you do it the other way around, you'll come out of it thinking, how are these movies connected? Like you'll see plot threads, but they're like
dynamics are different though.
Totally different. Totally different.
The performances are completely different. Yeah,
they're both fucking great, but it's like they're totally different, and so that's. Scorsese justified it. And also, see, to me, it's like if a movie, like anytime somebody remakes, like The Seven Samurai, I feel that's a good thing because it's
Magnificent Seven, right? Magnificent Seven is the right way to do that, right?
Anytime somebody does it, I think because that everybody knows Kurosawa. Let me use a hip hop example, like with Rakim, right? Like when you're rapping.
You can rhyme about it if you want. Listen, you're free to rhyme about it. I'll let you freestyle.
I'll just explain it like this. There's a part of hip hop culture called biting, right?
Yeah.
And biting is like when you're stealing somebody's shit. Like you don't bite people's lines, right? Like you don't bite bars. That means you're just taking bars from somebody else.
Yeah, you don't steal.
And you're just passing them off as your own. But there's one person that a few rappers have said, even Eminem is kind of on paper he wrote this, that the one rapper that it's just totally okay to bite from without even crediting
Biggie
is Rakim.
It's Rakim. People always bite off Biggie though.
From Eric B and Rakim. People bite off Biggie, and it's kind of, but with Rakim it's different because
original.
And the way Eminem phrased this was it's okay to bite from Rakim a little bit because everybody knows Rakim. Everybody fucking loves Rakim.
Right.
Everybody knows that it's going to be a Rakim bar when you use it.
Right.
And so it's a sign of respect, and it's you saying like I love Rakim too, so I'm using a Rakim bar.
Why would Gus Van Sant make Psycho as a shot for shot? Why make a shot for shot remake of Psycho? Gus Van Sant can direct his nuts.
Can direct,
But why? I don't understand the thinking because there's nothing added to it. It's just literally fucking shot.
Yeah.
Remakes to me should be remakes should be to me like you're doing something like JC said, you've got to put your own spin on it. Or there's another case for remakes to me, which is if the original had a cool idea but the execution
wasn't great.
sucked. I think we or if it's an adaptation of source material from a different material, and then it's not really a remake. But but like if you've got a movie that's got a good idea, an interesting idea, but it was flawed in execution, or there was some production fuck up. Like I think that's a good case for a remake, even if it's a very recent thing.
I really hope someone
Pretty Woman, right?
I really hope someone remakes In Time at some point. The movie where time is currency.
He's
terrible
movie. You're in a movie.
Yeah, the Justin Timberlake movie.
Oh, I saw that
movie, but the concept is awesome.
Remake it. That's you. That's your job. Remake it.
I was so mad.
I can't wait to remake Parasite. I hope it's soon.
So mad. I don't think that will happen anytime. I think that will happen eventually, but I think it'll be a long time before that happens.
When you see I Saw the Devil, your whole opinion about cinema is going to change. When you see I Saw the Devil, you're gonna reassess your whole fucking life. Yeah, because it's gonna grab you by the nuts. It's a crazy movie. Have you seen I Saw the Devil, DrYazman? I Saw the Devil, the Korean film.
That
film really wakes people up. And we're not going to get into it because we're going to review that later. But it's kind of like a Silence of the Lambs level head fuck.
That movie, Memories of Murder as well.
Yeah,
Memories of Murder.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that killer.
So damn, Memories of Murder. Yeah,
one of the best crime films.
Y'all got to add that to your list eventually. Memories of Murder is.
We're not going anywhere. We're going to be doing this forever.
We're going to be doing this forever.
Every film ever made that needs to be reviewed.
But,
No, we're
but
gonna
I guess
keep doing
just
it.
to summarize, like the old boy thing, I personally thought it was disgraceful when they announced it. I thought it was disgraceful when it came out. Spike Lee, of all people, should know better. I thought it was disgraceful that he was part of that project. He should have known better.
I think he's apologized for it. I
hope
Those
so.
taxes,
Because as somebody
taxes, man, they get those big back tax bill, and they have to go do a fucking movie like that to pay them. They have to pay their bills.
He in particular, though, to me, it's like as a guy who is legit, great director, and but has staked his career on social and political commentary, which is great commentary. You know, I love Bamboozled, for example.
Oh, Bamboozled's like my favorite one. That's my favorite Spike Lee movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically him doing the producers, but in a really great.
No, it was so well executed. Have you guys seen Bamboozled?
Yeah.
No. All right. Well, we'll watch that.
It's so. Without going too much into it, like,
go ahead.
Bamboozled is, the producers, the Mel Brooks story.
Yeah.
Where it's a guy trying to get fired.
Where they're trying to make a musical called Springtime for Hitler because they want to get fired.
They want to get fired. So
it's a Mel Brooks.
Bamboozled is that. But it's a TV executive who wants to get fired, and so he stages a minstrel show, in the modern era, and it blows up in popularity, and it's Spike Lee, and so it's really aggressive, and it's got
it's like a Twilight Zone. It's almost like a Jordan Peele movie, right? Because it's almost like a horror movie, and it's a lot. It reminds me also of what's that movie that they made about the future where everyone's really dumb.
Idiocracy.
That also reminds me of that one.
But let me bring it back a bit. So To a Better Tomorrow with remakes. So to circle back a bit, there is a Hong Kong remake as well. Sorry, a Chinese remake, a mainland Chinese remake that was authorized as well. I say authorized because there's some unauthorized ones too.
And you haven't seen these? Have you seen these?
I have not seen either of these remakes.
You can't stream them? Are they not widely available?
I just haven't sat down.
No, I'm just wondering.
I just am not sure whether I want to watch them. Is the reason I haven't watched them. I do want to watch
Spider-Man vibes.
The Korean one is the one that I do want to watch, but it's also still a remake of A Better Tomorrow, so I'm kind of worried. I'm just nervous to watch it because it's one of my favorite movies.
Batman, right? You think about. They've always done this in comics. Like Spider-Man has 3 books always going. There's Amazing Spider-Man, there's Web of Spider-Man, there's Peter Parker of the Spectacular Spider-Man.
You have not read Spider-Man in a while. Those are not the Spider-Man.
I'm saying during most of Marvel's career, from the 80s through 2000s, they always had I'm saying multiple comics,
they had multiple series going at the time,
multiple versions of Thor, there's a female Thor, multiverse theory.
Well,
and I think it's cool when you can do that.
That's recent.
So the whole concept of having 2 Peter Parkers on 2 different threads. And also Peter Parkles, right? And listen, they also made Spider-Ham at the same time, right? Too. They were also Peter Porker, the Incredible Spider-Ham. That's multiverse theory. They just are not articulating it. They're just showing you it. Look at Detective Comics. Look at Batman. They had 2 books going simultaneously, 2 different threads, 2 different Batmans.
But it's the same
Batman. It's the same Batman. It's the same Batman.
It's 2 different vibes, though. It's retellings in different art styles.
I feel like that's a bit different to remakes, though, because remakes, it's not a collective.
It's when they do Batman in movies, right? You can have Michael Keaton, you can have Val Kilmer, you can have the current Batman, right? And
I know.
Christopher Nolan on different tracks. They do that, is what I'm saying. It's mythology.
What I'm saying is
A
Better Tomorrow. Like, A Better Tomorrow is John Woo's film, so doing a remake of it that's inferior to
I would be
when it comes to Batman, that's DC's character.
Put Mark and Ho in different situations on a different timeline.
I see what you're saying.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if I expressed that correctly, but I'm just saying it's just
do something
zhuzhes, right? It's just a different what if they made this decision if they went left instead of right?
I haven't watched any of them.
Yeah,
there is one I have watched. So there's 2 unauthorized, technically illegal. Fuck copyright anyway. But there are 2 unauthorized remakes. There's a Bollywood remake which came out in the 90s. I think it's called Artish. And
Bollywood remakes are so funny. I watched a Bollywood remake of The Exorcist.
The Bollywood one, I have
really
seen
funny.
the Bollywood one, and it's not. It's not great, but it's entertaining.
It's entertaining.
It's a version of it.
It's weird. It's weird because it's actually so. Here's what it's strange because it's a remake of another movie. It's a remake of another movie as well as A Better Tomorrow. So they had two remake projects that they wanted to do, and they just kind of mashed them together.
Just smushed them together.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And that's part of the reason. That's part of the way that they also were. They tried to justify publicly, like, oh well, it's not. We were just influenced by A Better Tomorrow. But
that's their version of
it's this
making
other movie
it for the money,
too,
right?
Like we've got enough of this other movie in there too. But it's a remake of A Better Tomorrow. And there's also a Thai remake. There's also a Thai remake, which I only just found out about like last year.
I was going to ask about Indonesia.
There's also
Gareth Evans hasn't cooked up a version from The Raid.
So this is not. I love The Raid. But,
this
is not a remake, but Cowboy Bebop has a shitload of stuff. They straight up pulled out of A Better Tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Like you watched like some of the final sequences in it, straight out of the movie. And bits from A Better Tomorrow too as well, like from the sequel. Cowboy Bebop is full of visual references to this.
Yeah, it's like their Godfather. It's almost not their God, or almost like their Scarface or something. It's on that level of like Scarface. Right?
Of
cultural
influence.
There's also, if anybody who's a fan of the Wu-Tang Clan,
the album and the song, right?
They have a song called A Better Tomorrow, but they've also got an album called A Better Tomorrow.
I published it on the Discord. I published it in our Discord tonight, so people can fucking recognize.
And it was mentioned. Somebody mentioned before. I think Pragpro. You mentioned that when this movie came out, the style of it, the influence. People must have been walking around with coats.
Yeah.
I happen to know my a family member of mine, a relative of mine, went to Hong Kong about 5 or 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he loves he buys trench coats. He wears trench coats.
Okay.
He loves them. And he bought one in Hong Kong, and it was labeled as a Mark trench coat. And
Mark trench coat.
It was labeled as a Mark trench coat, and it wasn't really like the same as the movie, but it was just labeled as a Mark coat, and he was like, "What's the deal with this?" And I had shown him A Better Tomorrow, so he knew about the movie, and the guy was like, "Oh well," so the guy like seeing that my relative is not from Hong Kong, assumed he hadn't seen the movie. And he goes, "Oh, well, there's this old movie from the 80s, and we just call them Mark coats now. Any trench coat, you just call
every Mark coat. Trench coat is a Mark coat.
That's just like how ingrained in the culture that the film is.
And apparently, he was like this guy was like, "Oh yeah, when I was in high school, like everybody was wearing them." Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah. That was like the cool thing to wear. It was like you'd go to school with a trench coat, and you'd be like, "Dude, I'm like Mark."
And it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
So in Hong Kong, it has the cultural relevancy as like Shrek. Like it's that kind of
Shrek.
Yeah.
What?
No, I'm just saying. Example?
No. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying in terms of fame. I'm saying in terms of fame.
No,
what are you talking about?
That's crazy.
No, it makes sense.
That's a fine comparison. Shrek is a household name. That's
all I'm
saying.
Shrek.
No. I'm not saying that people don't dress like Shrek. I'm just saying
it's like Tom Cruise in Top Gun in the aviator glasses. Maybe that's.
I'm just talking about as a household name.
How everybody knows it.
I'm looking for an Australian.
Yaz got me. He gets me.
I get you.
Australians get each other.
Listen, I'm just trying to do a bit. I'm just trying to add a little comedy moment, and that's I get you too. I understand what you're saying. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, and of course, us Australians, we connect. We're like,
I love you guys.
We got ESP. Because we're one, we're a hive mind.
No, because you're marsupials, and I'm going to prove it.
Because we're not real, we're a hive mind.
You have
we're
a
all
pouch,
one
and I'm going to prove it at the UN. September 3rd, see me at the United Nations, prove Australians are marsupials.
All right, let's get down to brass taxes. What did you think? What's your final thoughts on this film, Pragpro?
I give it a 3 out of 100. It was
horrific. That's one more point than me. Crazy.
I didn't understand anything. I can't be bothered to read. And so, no, I love this movie. I just love that you could see it had a clear style, and you could tell it became a cultural touch point because it was just full of unique. It was very futuristic from point of view of 1986, probably. And you know, it probably kicked off the fashion of the '90s in the East. And everything. I loved it. No, it was great. Chow Yun Fat. I mean, I love the relationships between the characters. I thought it was beautifully shot. And the action sequences are phenomenal. The soundtrack's interesting. Some of the stuff I don't like is just because of probably just cultural differentials between how much melodrama I can handle.
Yeah,
but I understand that I'm there for that cultural melodrama because it's appropriate to the film. So I instead of saying, well, I don't like the way they do this because it's different to me, I try to, you know, just fucking go with it. Just go with it and say, okay, Mark and Hall love one another. That's beautiful. Let them, you know, it's beautiful how they express it differently.
Bang it out.
Because they're not going to express that way in a Western detective film the same way, right? So no, I love the movie. I'll give it a 90. I mean, it's a cultural touchstone out of 100. And that's probably the highest rating I've given out here.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. That's actually, I think that is his highest rating he's given on this channel. Time, where you at? Yes. How you feeling?
Man, the action scenes in this movie really were good. They made up a lot for the story because I found the story not very good.
You didn't say that earlier. You never say it earlier.
Well, let him say it now. You never do it. It doesn't matter. Casey, let him cook. Let's go. Tell us. It's all right.
I think it was an enjoyable movie overall. I didn't understand, obviously, the impact of what this movie.
Wait. Why don't you like the story? Why don't you like the story?
It just didn't hit me. It wasn't confusing. Okay. I mean, I followed it. It just wasn't interesting. It was just like, oh, one's a cop and one's on the other side of the law, and
so Heat had the same plot, but you didn't point that out in Heat and say this was a boring story. Why
was it interesting? It was interesting.
Why? Tell me
just
why.
Interesting. I don't want to tell you. It just wasn't.
This is a show about why is it interesting.
I'm just telling you, I didn't find it interesting. That's it.
Okay. What would you give it out of 100?
60 probably.
60?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm calling the police.
For me, it's an 80. I really enjoyed it. I had a really good time. I thought the characters were great. I thought the film looks just gorgeous. And I really appreciate where this film sits in like the history of Hong Kong cinema. And obviously, I was already a fan of Hong Kong cinema. Like Wong Kar-wai is one of my favorite directors.
I'm surprised you never saw this one.
Yeah, I haven't seen any Hong Kong John Woo films, only the American ones.
Fair enough.
You know, it's a gap in my filmography.
Hey, we all have gaps. Listen.
Yeah, I'm glad I've watched the magnum opus now. So yeah,
it's a good starting point. It's a good starting point. I would say though, before you call it the magnum opus, I would say hold that thought because you've really got to see. You know, like John Woo hasn't peaked yet. This is like early days.
This is entry.
This is the starting point for John Woo.
I'm excited. I'm going
to watch the sequel tonight. I'm sorry.
I actually say that the sequel is even better.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure they got that budget right. They got everyone's like, oh shit, we're doing it. Let's fucking go.
I also say don't even bother to watch the third one and just watch Bullet in the Head.
Okay.
But that's
listen. I'm gonna listen.
Maybe I'm too much of a John Woo purist. I want to see the 2010
movie. I want to see the 2010. It is a decent movie.
Yeah.
The Korean one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say my rating for it personally.
You can give it 100 if you want.
Rating out of 100? No, I wouldn't go that far.
We don't do that. Look, he's right. We don't go to that high because that's not possible.
I wouldn't rate anything 100 out of 100.
That's what I say, DrYazman. These fucking guys.
Nothing can get 100.
They just don't get it. They don't get the speed of light.
I'd probably say around maybe like 86, 87 sort of range, sort of ballpark.
Yeah,
that's a good score.
That's exactly right.
I love it because here's the thing. I love this movie, but I do think the sequel, and I'm not downplaying the first one. I love it, and it's a great movie. But the second one really is a lot better.
It's the second one
also has, in my opinion, I don't think that there is a better shootout than the final shootout of A Better Tomorrow 2 filmed yet. Okay. I don't think that there has been a better shootout filmed. Is that on Internet
Archive as well? Because Better Tomorrow is free for everyone.
Probably. So,
I'm just trying to tell the audience.
Hit up the link.
Audience, if you want to see John Woo movies, go to the Internet Archive, and there's a lot of wonderful movies there. They're absolutely free. You can stream them. Their quality is good. Please use the Internet Archive. Please.
I hope you come back on, Dr. Yaz, and we can talk about them.
No, never again.
In the future.
This one.
I would love to.
No.
Don't listen to Bragg.
Veto.
Get out of here.
No, because he's no.
Where can...
No, I'm gonna have him on.
So
I'm gonna have him on the other shows this week. I'm trying.
So next week's film, is my choice.
Veto.
We're gonna be watching.
Veto.
No, you're not vetoing it. We're watching
this
it.
guy with the 60. A 60?
60.
Yeah.
What the
That's
fuck?
ridiculous. But it's good.
That doesn't
We have
even make
different
sense.
opinions.
60.
He did watch it dubbed, to be fair. So that
Dr.
probably
Yapping.
both.
I watched both.
He watched the scuffed version.
At the same
can't
time. You watched
same.
you know, I showed a movie. I showed a movie, what was it? I think it was Memories of Murder, actually.
Mm-hmm.
To a friend of mine, and the version that he had was kind of fucked up, and so it was like cutting like every 5 minutes or so. No,
Yeah.
every minute or so it would freeze
Oh
for
god.
like 10 seconds.
No.
And he watched the whole movie like that, and I asked him. I
couldn't
was
do
so
that.
excited. I was
I
so
couldn't do
excited, and that he watched it, and I was like, "Did you like Memories of Murder? It's great." Like, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't really like it. I couldn't get into it. It was kind of
Yeah,
I was
I know
like,
someone
what
like
are you
that.
talking
No.
about, man?"
Yeah.
And then like he eventually, after like an hour of talking to him about it, he eventually told me, "Oh, but it was kind of broken, you know, it was just kind of cutting." Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Dude,
It ruins
to-
it.
I was
Like
like,
my
you have to
review
go back
of Grizzly
and watch
Man.
it."
When
Yeah.
we watched Grizzly Man, it was the same business. I got the same business here.
So I had a similar experience, but it kind of worked out. I watched the film Captain Phillips. I don't know if you've seen it with
Right.
I'm the
with
captain
Tom
now.
Hanks. Yeah, that one.
haven't
So the
seen- oh, I
version I
haven't seen it.
watched, so the version I watched, about 50% of the dialogue in that film is
I thought about the Somali pirates.
Yes.
That's right.
I didn't
Yeah.
watch that because I thought that it was going to be Hollywood propaganda. Because around the time that I was that movie came out, I was a really huge fan of this rapper called Kanan, who is like a Somali Canadian, and he has tons of like interviews and songs and stuff
Are you
talking
the
about
coolest person on
Somali.
the internet? Who the fuck
Talking
are
about
you,
the Somali
Dr. Yasmin? God damn it.
He extensively talked about the Somali perspective on that, and then I had started reading about the Somali perspective on it. And if you look into it, it's like there's like Italian companies, there's like Italian power companies, electricity companies that pay the mafia to sail down to Somali waters and dump radioactive waste in the water.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so there's these like Europeans coming down and dumping toxic crap into their water. So a lot of
They can
Somali
fish.
people are like, "Of course we're going to do piracy."
Yeah, but they
because we
have
don't
fishing.
fucking want them in our water. And there's nobody to
Dragnets
stop
take
them.
the other fish. That's
So
they
I'm
could
not
fish.
shitting on Tom Hanks or anything. I just didn't watch
The movie
that
talks
movie
about
because
that.
Yeah.
I
The
thought
movie
it was
talks
gonna be
about it.
propaganda.
Let me just talk about Captain Phillips just for a second.
Tell me about it.
So Captain Phillips,
Is it worth it?
yeah, I think it's really sympathetic to the Somali pirates.
Yeah, they do a good job.
Like 50% of the dialogue in that film is Somali.
Okay.
And basically, I watched it, and I think I'd watched a pirated version of it. And I watched it, and like the movie started out, and they were speaking Somali, but there was no subtitles. So I thought it was the director's intention that there were no subtitles. Yeah, so that when they got on the boat, you know, and then they got onto the boat, and then it's like they're putting us in the perspective of the people.
Interesting.
Turns out the movie was meant to have subtitles.
You just
but
forgot to
little
get the
janky.
subs.
yeah, but
Didn't
I
know.
felt like it enhanced the experience in a way. But I did rewatch it with the
You got the
subtitles.
Yiffy version that doesn't come with the subs.
Yeah,
Those
exactly.
fucking Yiffy releases never have the subs.
So I watched two different versions of the film, two different perspectives.
That's a
but
good
it's
one. No,
It's a good movie.
good. Did the Tom
Maybe
Hanks
you'll
win an
watch it
Oscar
then.
for that?
Yeah, I think it's sympathetic to the Somali pirates.
I just didn't trust Hollywood with the source.
Like,
material.
literally
Well, you
the first
can't. I
15
agree.
minutes
You
of the
can't
film,
trust
like-
them. Who directed
I'll
it?
go back and watch it though.
Who directed
like
it?
the first the
I'll look
guy
it.
who did the guy Johnny the guy who did the Bourne movies
Ooh.
Oh, fucking
that makes sense now when I think about
Greengrass. Yeah, Paul Greengrass. Yeah.
Paul Greengrass.
Yeah. So the first 15 minutes is all set in Somalia, and just like the whole them setting it all up, and yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it.
I'll give it a chance then.
Yeah, because he directed Bloody Sunday, which they did a good job talking about.
That's a good movie.
The conflict in Ireland, right? I think Bobby Collins is another good movie that did a good job.
I watched that movie with subtitles.
Or Michael Collins, not Bobby Collins. Michael Collins.
Bloody Sunday, I think was one of those. There's a couple of Irish movies I watched that we watched and we needed subtitles for. And
oh my god, yeah, you do need subtitles. Did you see that one about Bobby Sands when it's about the hunger strike, and it's basically about Bobby Sands painting the inside of his cell and all the prisoners with fecal matter. So because they want to punish the guards, right? That's how hard fucking core these people are. They live in shit just to fucking piss off the jailer. That's how fucking hardcore. It's fucking painted in layers. The whole cell. He does not give a fuck about his own safety. He's not eating, and it's a brutal way to die like that. Not starving.
JC, you were saying you were talking about you're introducing your next choice of movie. What is it?
Yes, that's what.
Oh my god! I'm sorry, JC.
Yeah, all good. So the film that we're watching next week and reviewing is Sean Baker's Tangerine. So Sean Baker is a director who has been on the scene for a while. He's made a lot of like independent films, like his biggest one I think is the Florida Project. That's the one that got the most heat. But there's something interesting about the production of Tangerine that I want to talk about when we get to it. This year he won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, which is basically Best Picture in Cannes. So yeah, I'm just interested to get into his filmography.
I know he makes beautifully shot films. That's all I know. I haven't seen his films, but I can just tell from the stills how beautiful the lighting. So
there's something really interesting and inspiring about the production of Tangerine that I do want to talk about next week. But,
cool.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Where can everyone find you, Dr. Yasmin? Just
you can find me. You can find me. So there's two places you'll find me. Twitch.tv/DrYazman is my Twitch channel. I stream at least 3 times a week, and so I usually go live at 9 p.m. in Australian Eastern Standard Time, unless you're in daylight savings, and then I don't know what the fuck it is. It's like an hour after that, or an hour before.
It's kangaroo time. It's just called kangaroo time. It doesn't make any sense.
That's me. I'm in Western Australia. So.
I don't have a place. I don't live in a place that lives with daylight savings. But
I don't support
it. You're gonna get us canceled. You can't attack daylight savings on the internet.
If you're listening to this, though, more likely you're not in Australia and you're part of my core audience, which means you're in the United States, which means I go live at 7 a.m. EST.
Damn.
Things don't really kick off till about 8 a.m. EST, and that's why if you're on the West Coast, a lot of my West Coast viewers won't really turn up till like probably 3-4 hours in, obviously, because it's too early for them.
Waking up, yeah.
Because it's like 3 a.m. when I go live on the West Coast. That's why.
Watch this show. Watch Dr. Yasmin's show. I will be. Please, go.
I do once in a blue moon. I do go live late night. You can also another place you can find. So that's Twitch. I usually stream for about 5 to 7 hours at a time. So 7 a.m. EST or 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Or you can find me on Instagram. At Cave Dweller Music, where I do reels for Cave Dweller, and those are usually reel format. It's about a minute to 90 seconds at a time, and you'll find me on Instagram, Instagram.com/Cave Dweller Music, and you'll find me there covering, promoting like independent underground music. I sometimes talk about movies there. It's something we're looking at branching out into at Cave Dweller. So if any of you all are interested in in writing an article about a movie that you've watched,
I'd love that.
Then you can feel free to write stuff, to write something. You can send it to me.
Submit.
I can give you an email address, or you can DM it to me.
I'd love to write articles. That'd be so good.
It's been such a pleasure having you. Your show is goated. You do amazing game crafting. You show people how to do things and not just do things, and then hope people understand. You're free of spirit. You can do an insane freestyle for as long as you want. People go into his chat.
Impressive.
He'll do it, and he's not afraid, and he's good at it.
Very, very impressive.
And I hope we get to work with you this week coming on Channel 9, and I'm going to hit you up about that too, because I think
let me know. Happy to, and and I'd love to come back. So I can always
see you. I see you, Dr. Yasmin. Listen, I'm not going to let you slip away. No.
Line me up. Also, Brother Time with the big Mark background, which I was like, the second I joined and I saw that background, I was hyped. I was like,
we're ready to go.
He was cool until he gives it a originally, 60, and then you realize he's not that fucking cool.
So originally, the background it was an MP4 file format, so it was looping him lighting it up. But when I went to set it, it sped it up like 12 times fast. So it was like really quick, and I'm like, I can't do that. That's so distracting.
I want a background with Ho's white suit moment. I want a background with Ho's white suit. When he's in front of the Rolls Royce.
The reveal,
yeah.
Where
can they find you, Brother Time?
Yeah.
Brother Time, they can find me on Twitch at Timegoestowaste. I'm going to be finishing up The Last of Us pretty soon. Last night,
right? You did a bit.
Yeah. I'm going to finish up Last of Us pretty soon. It's going to suck because it's a terrible game. But yeah, you can also find me on the Channel 9.
Terrible game.
It's a terrible game. On the Channel 9 Collection Family shows.
Yeah, the Collection Family. That's what we're doing. The Collection Family.
I helped. Was it yesterday? I helped yesterday.
He was on for 4 hours. He did a great job. Yeah, on the Barry Show.
Brother Pragpro, where can they find you?
I'm always cooking. Listen, Pragpro on Twitch and X, and I'm on Channel 9, so I fucking do that 4 days a week, probably like 20 hours of improv a week we're doing right now, and everyone's cooking. And Scar's taking a week off, so we all have to pitch in and make some excellent content to fill the void, and I'm excited to work with other people in the circle, in the orbit. And I think we can do fun things. We have an open canvas. And people will see it. Yeah. So be excited and get involved and DM me. JC.
Yes. Hello. I don't do a lot of streaming at all. But you can find me on Instagram at Mitchell RJ Cooper. You can find me on YouTube. Mitchell RJ Cooper is where I post all of my projects. I've done some film directing in the past. So I've shot a couple of short films, and I've done some video essays on YouTube.
And he's good too. He's very good.
So you can find me at Mitchell RJ Cooper.
He's editing.
He's at the bench, boys.
No, listen, he's editing.
It's a downhill from there.
It's downhill.
British boys are goated. I want to see more of that.
Good. It's so good.
You got to upload
that was my last project
to the Discord.
I will.
Content on the
that was our last project.
I fucking love that. It was so funny.
I have nothing. I don't really have anything in the pipeline at the moment because I'm just trying to work and save money. But in the future, we'll be making more stuff once I've moved back to Melbourne. And you'll see more on this. Mitchell RJ Cooper. And this is my the other project I'm working on. It's the 3 Grannies Yapping.
Heading back to the relevant coastline.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Best friends. I can already see Mr. JG and Mr. Yasmin are going to be buddies. I can already tell.
Your cost of living over there cooked me, but I'll be back. So you can find my short film, The Blueprint, and my short film, The Bench Boys, Melbourne, on there. So thank you so much for coming on this podcast, Dr. Yasmin. It's been a pleasure. So we sign off now. We say goodbye. Have a good one, everyone.
Goodbye. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.